Johnny had always been the kind of boy who felt things deeply. He noticed when someone was left out, when a classmate sat alone, or when a teacher's smile faded just slightly by the end of the day. He was gentle, thoughtful, and quiet, qualities that made him different in a school where the loudest voices got the most attention. At home, his mother always told him, "Being kind is a strength, not a weakness." He believed her, or at least he used to. School, Johnny felt invisible. The hallways were dominated by a group of boys who seemed untouchable. They laughed loudly, took up space like they owned it, and made others laugh even as they tore people down. They were popular, bold, and cruel, but admired. Johnny watched them from a distance, unsure whether he despised them or secretly wished to be like them. Maybe both. Then came the moment he didn't expect. One of the boys, Tyler, turned to him in the cafeteria one day, patted the empty seat beside him and said, "Yo, Johnny, come sit with us." Heads turned. Johnny hesitated for just a second before sliding into the seat. Laughter, backslaps, and nods followed. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't invisible. First, it felt like a dream. He was suddenly in on the jokes. The crew, as they called themselves, started tagging him in posts, giving him nicknames, walking with him between classes. He laughed along with their jokes, even when they were cruel. When they pulled chairs out from under unsuspecting kids or made fun of someone's clothes, Johnny didn't join in. But he didn't stop them either. He smiled. He stayed silent. And silence, he learned, was its own kind of approval. But something in him shifted. It was subtle at first. A sick feeling in his stomach after a particularly cruel prank. A sleepless night thinking about the way they'd mocked a boy who stuttered. He started to dread the moments he used to look forward to. The laughter sounded different now, like a blade coated in sugar. One day, they cornered a quiet kid named Noah and dared Johnny to take his backpack and toss it across the hallway. "Just for laughs, bro," Tyler grinned. The others were already recording on their phones, egging him on. Johnny looked at Noah, eyes wide, face pale, clutching that worn-out backpack like it was the only thing he had in the world. Johnny reached out, but not for the bag. He turned to Tyler, heart thudding so loud he could barely hear his own voice. "I'm not doing this." They stared at him, confused. Tyler's grin twitched. "What?" "I said I'm not doing this." His voice was louder now, clearer. Tyler rolled his eyes. "Come on, man. Don't be soft." Johnny shook his head. "This isn't me. It's never been me." And then he did the hardest thing he'd ever done. He walked away. Not in anger. Not in a rush. Just away. Behind him, the laughter turned awkward, then died. He didn't look back. That night, he sat in his room staring at the ceiling, wondering if he'd made a mistake. He felt alone. More alone than ever. And yet lighter. Like he'd dropped a weight he didn't even know he was carrying. The next day at school, he sat alone again. No one called him over. No one laughed with him. But a few hours later, Rosa, a girl from his English class, passed him a folded note. "What you did yesterday was brave. Thank you." He looked up and she smiled. Over the next week, something changed. A boy he barely knew joined him at lunch. Then another. Not loud kids. Not cool ones. Just real people. Quiet, kind, curious. The kind of kids who didn't need to step on others to stand tall. Johnny found his people. Not many, but enough. People who saw him. Not the version he tried to be, but who he really was. And in finding them, he found something else. He stopped pretending. Stopped laughing at jokes that hurt. Stopped hiding the parts of himself that felt too soft for a hard world. It wasn't always easy. Some days were still lonely. But Johnny had made a choice. He had chosen himself. And that made all the difference. Sometimes the world tries to convince you that kindness is weakness, that cruelty is power, that fitting in is worth any cost. But Johnny, he learned the truth. Being yourself is the bravest thing you can ever do. And when you choose that path, even if it feels lonely at first, you never really walk it alone for long.